one. We've got a classic beauty up for grabs on Craigslist. It's a 1961 Chevrolet Biscayne, and let me tell you, this car is a true blast from the past. Now, I'm going to be straight with you. The seller has listed the condition as fair, which means it's not in perfect shape, but don't let that discourage you. This Biscayne has a lot of potential, and with a little TLC, it could be a real head-turner. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine, which is paired with a 3-on-the-tree manual transmission. That's right, folks, this car is a manual. It's the perfect ride for those who love the feeling of shifting gears and being in control of their driving experience. The seller mentions that the car runs, which is always a good sign. They've also put some work into it already, with a new paint job, a new gas tank, and some brake work done. The interior has been spruced up with new carpet, too. Now here's the really cool part. This Biscayne was actually purchased for a scene in a documentary film. How awesome is that? It's just waiting for someone to take it to the next level and give it the restoration it deserves. The odometer shows 75,000 miles, but it's rolled over, so the actual mileage is unknown. The car has a clean title, which is great news for any potential buyer. As for the price, the seller is asking $14,999 or best offer. It's not a small chunk of change, but for a classic car with this much history and potential, it could be a worthwhile investment for the right person. So, there you have it, folks. A 1961 Chevrolet Biscayne with a lot of character and a lot of possibilities. If you're looking for a project car that's got some cool history behind it, this could be the one for you. Just remember, it's not in perfect condition, but with some love and elbow grease, it could be a real gem. 2. We've got a real treat for you on Craigslist. A 1963 1.2 Ford Galaxy 500 that's sure to turn heads and get your heart racing. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, this Galaxy is a project car. The seller has listed the condition as good, but there are a few things that need some attention. Don't let that scare you off, though. This car has a ton of potential. Under the hood, you'll find a 1973 D-choked 460 engine that's paired with a 4-speed manual transmission on the floor. That's right, folks. This car is a manual, and it's a blast to drive. The seller even says so themselves. The body of this Galaxy is straight and rust-free, which is a huge plus. The paint is a beautiful purple color, and while there are a few small blemishes and chips here and there, none of them are larger than a pencil eraser head. The clear coat is also in great condition, so this car really shines out on the road. Now, let's talk about what needs some work. The interior needs new carpet and some period-correct front seats. The electric radiator fans also need to be fixed or replaced, and the seller hasn't had the time to figure out the problem. A belt tensioner could also be a good addition. The odometer shows 36,000 miles, but it's broken, so the actual mileage is unknown. The car has a clean title, which is always good news. As for the price, the seller is asking $2,500. It's not a small amount of money, but for a classic car with this much potential and a killer engine-transmission combo, it could be a great investment for the right person. The seller seems really attached to this Galaxy, and it's easy to see why. They mention that it's their favorite possession, but they need to let it go because they have a kid in a car seat and need the money for daycare. It's a tough situation, but it could be a great opportunity for someone else to give this car the love and attention it deserves. So, there you have it, folks. A 1963 1.2 Ford Galaxy 500 with a powerful engine, a manual transmission, and a whole lot of potential. If you're looking for a project car that's sure to turn heads and get your adrenaline pumping, this could be the one for you. Just be prepared to put in some work to get it to where you want it to be. Thanks for tuning in, and happy bidding. 3. We've got a real gem on Craigslist, a 1960 Ford Falcon that's sure to make your jaw drop. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this beauty. The seller has listed it as excellent, and from what I can see in the photos, they're not exaggerating. The original paint is still intact, and the car looks absolutely stunning for its age. The seller even goes as far as saying that you won't find a better original condition Falcon out there, and I'm inclined to believe them. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine that's paired with a manual transmission. This is the perfect combo for those who love the feeling of being in control of their ride and really connecting with their car. The odometer shows 101,478 miles, but it has rolled over, so the actual mileage is unknown. However, given the excellent condition of this Falcon, it's clear that it has been well maintained throughout its life. Now let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $6,400 for this beauty, and in my opinion, that's a steal. For a car that's over 60 years old and in such great condition, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better deal. One thing to note, the seller is very clear that they don't want to deal with any scams or fake checks. They mention that if the posting is up, the car is available, and they don't want to hear about any shipping partners or anything like that. It's always good to see a seller who is upfront and honest about their expectations. So, there you have it, folks. A 1960 Ford Falcon in excellent condition, with original paint and a 6-cylinder engine paired with a manual transmission. If you're looking for a classic car that's sure to turn heads and make you feel like $1 million, this could be the one for you. And at just $6,400, it's a bargain that's hard to pass up. 4. We've got a 1979 Chevrolet Camaro up for grabs on Craigslist. And let me tell you, this thing is a beauty. First off, can we talk about the condition of this car? The seller has listed it as excellent. And based on the description and photos, I'd say that's spot on. This Camaro has been garaged and driven sparingly since the current owners bought it way back in 1981. That's right, folks. This car has been in the same loving hands for over 40 years. Under the hood, you'll find a 305 V8 engine that's paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. There's nothing quite like the feeling of rowing through the gears in a classic muscle car, and this Camaro delivers that experience in spades. The odometer shows just 83,451 miles, which is incredibly low for a car of this age. And get this, those are original miles. This Camaro has never been in an accident, and it's been well maintained throughout its life. The exterior is finished in a stunning silver paint that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. And check out those aluminum wheels. They really set off the look of this classic ride. Now let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $11,000 for this gem, and in my opinion, that's a fair price for a car of this caliber. Sure, it's not cheap, but when you consider the condition, the low mileage, and the fact that it's been in the same hands for over 4 decades, it starts to look like a pretty solid investment. Of course, as with any classic car purchase, it's always a good idea to do your due diligence. Get a thorough inspection, check the car's history, and make sure everything is on the up and up before you pull the trigger. But if everything checks out, you could be the proud owner of a true piece of American muscle car history. This 1979 Chevrolet Camaro is a real head-turner, and it's sure to put a smile on your face every time you get behind the wheel. So, what are you waiting for? If you're in the market for a classic Camaro that's been cherished and well-maintained, this could be the one for you. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Give the seller a call and schedule a test drive today. 5. We've got a real treat for you on Craigslist, a 1974 Plymouth Satellite that's been transformed into a Roadrunner clone. Now, I'm going to be straight with you. The seller has listed the condition as good, but there are a few things you should know. This car has been sitting for a while, and the seller admits they haven't done much with it in the past 3 years. They've been starting it up and driving it around the block every couple of months, but it's not a daily driver by any means. Under the hood, you'll find a 318 V8 engine. The seller thinks it might be the Sebring or Sebring Plus model, but they're not entirely sure. The car was bought sight unseen from Minnesota and transferred to Oregon, so there's a bit of mystery surrounding its exact specs. The odometer shows 23,561 miles, but because of the car's age, it's listed as exempt. The seller has only put about 100 miles on it in the past 2 years, so the actual mileage is likely higher. Now let's talk about the good stuff. This satellite has some pretty cool features, like color-changing halo headlights and a Bluetooth speaker system with a subwoofer. The alternator and voltage regulator have been replaced, which is a plus. It also has a color-changing cluster, although not all of the gauges are currently functional. The car has factory AC, but it needs a refrigerant refill. The seller mentions that it would probably need a conversion kit because it originally used R12 refrigerant. As for the bad stuff, there are a few things to note. The car has been kept under a car cover and tarps, but it doesn't have a garage. There were some leaks coming from the transmission, but a mechanic pulled it and replaced a bunch of seals, so that issue has been addressed. However, there is a slight leak from the rear differential, and the car needs an alignment. The battery is also from 2019, so it might need to be replaced. The seller mentions that sometimes you have to start the car in neutral, and if it's been sitting for a while, it might need some starting fluid to get going. The speed gauge is GPS-based and can be a bit finicky. Overall, this 1974 Plymouth Satellite Roadrunner clone is a cool project car with a lot of potential. It's not perfect, but with some TLC, it could be a real head-turner. The seller is asking $13,500, which seems a bit high considering the work that needs to be done. But if you're a Mopar enthusiast looking for a unique ride, it might be worth checking out. 6. We've got a real gem on Craigslist, a 1962 Ford Falcon Futura that's sure to make your heart skip a beat. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this beauty. The seller has listed it as good, and based on the description and photos, I'd say that's a fair assessment. This Falcon is 99% rust-free, which is incredibly rare for a car of this age. The interior looks great, with newer headliner and lap belts for added safety. Under the hood, you'll find a 170 inline 6-cylinder engine that's paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. The seller mentions that the engine runs great, which is always a good sign. And get this, it even has an electric choke, which is a nice modern touch on a classic ride. The odometer shows 100,000 miles, but it has rolled over, so the actual mileage is unknown. However, given the overall condition of this Falcon, it's clear that it has been well maintained throughout its life. The exterior is finished in a sleek black paint that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. And with many extra parts included in the sale, you'll have everything you need to keep this classic running strong for years to come. Now, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $8,500 for this 1962 Ford Falcon Futura. And in my opinion, that's a fair price for a car of this caliber. Sure, it's not cheap, but when you consider the rarity, the condition, and the included extras, it starts to look like a pretty solid deal. Of course, as with any classic car purchase, it's always a good idea to do your due diligence. Get a thorough inspection, check the car's history, and make sure everything is on the up and up before you pull the trigger. But if everything checks out, you could be the proud owner of a true piece of American automotive history. This 1962 Ford Falcon Futura is a real head-turner, and it's sure to put a smile on your face every time you get behind the wheel. So, what are you waiting for? If you're in the market for a classic Falcon that's been well maintained and includes plenty of extras, this could be the one for you. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Give the seller a call and schedule a test drive today. 7. We've got a real blast from the past on Craigslist, a 1984 Oldsmobile 88 that's ready for a new owner. Now, I'm going to be straight with you. The seller has listed the condition as fair, which means this car isn't perfect. It's got some flaws, but that's to be expected for a vehicle that's been around for nearly 4 decades. The odometer shows 23,000 miles, but there's a chance it could be 123,000 since there's no extra digit. Either way, this Olds has seen some miles, but don't let that discourage you. The The car has a remanufactured engine that runs great, according to the seller. Under the hood, you'll find a 5.0-liter V8 engine that's had a lot of new parts installed. We're talking a recent tune-up, water pump, all new belts, a new radiator, a rebuilt carburetor, and a fairly new exhaust system. The seller has also replaced every part of the air conditioning system, so you can cruise in comfort even on the hottest days. The exterior has been repainted back to the original color by a previous owner, but it's not in showroom condition. There's some surface rust in the door jambs, but the seller assures us that the floors and trunk pan are all solid. Inside, the interior has a couple of small tears on the driver's seat, but the dashboard is crack-free. Remember, this is a 40-year-old car, so some wear and tear is to be expected. Now, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $7,500 for this 1984 Oldsmobile 88, which might seem a bit steep for a car in fair condition. However, when you consider all the recent mechanical work and the fact that this car can be used as a daily driver, it starts to look like a more reasonable asking price. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to get a thorough inspection before making a final decision. But if you're in the market for a classic Oldsmobile that runs well and has some character, this could be the ride for you. The seller seems motivated to make a deal, so don't be afraid to negotiate if you're seriously interested. And if you do end up taking this 84 Olds home, you'll have a unique piece of automotive history that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. 8. We've got a 1985 Chevrolet Monte Carlo up for grabs on Craigslist, and let me tell you, this thing is a real gem. First off, can we talk about how rare it is to find a G-body coupe from the 80s in this kind of condition? The seller has had this car since 2005 and has only put about 400 miles on it since then. That means the car body has just 76,000 miles on it. Pretty impressive for a ride that's almost 40 years old. Now, I'm going to be straight with you. The seller has listed the condition as good, but this Monte Carlo has undergone some serious modifications over the years. We're talking a full-on conversion to a Sport Coupe Custom, with a ton of original parts removed and replaced with high-performance upgrades. Under the hood, you'll find a 305 Ci V8 engine with a performance intake manifold, lumpy cam, flathead pistons, and an HD timing chain Jotch gear set. It's paired with a 200 R4 Stage 2 automatic transmission that has lockout kit capability. The seller has also added an Edelbrock 700 CFM 4-barrel carb, HEI distributor, and a high-performance 9mm plug wire set, among other upgrades. The exterior has been modified with a rear deck lid spoiler from a 1988 Monte Carlo SS, and the car rides on 15 Monte Carlo Super Sport alloy wheels wrapped in Firestone Indy 500 tires. The black paint job was done by Mako back in 2017, but the seller admits it didn't turn out quite as hoped. There are a few minor surface areas that will need attention before laying down a final coat. Inside, the Monte Carlo has been upgraded with a 1980s color dash gauge cluster, set with chrome rings, a Monte Carlo Super Sport steering wheel, and an AM/FM stereo with an equalizer from a 1988 model. Now, let's talk about the pros and cons. On the plus side, this Monte Carlo sounds like a true hot rod when you start it up. Definitely not a stock V6 anymore. The throttle response is respectable for a 305, and the car has a ton of high-performance upgrades that any G-body fan would appreciate. On the downside, the seller notes that the front and rear main seals have developed a slow drip for unknown reasons. There are also a few minor paint surface areas that will need attention before laying down a final coat. The seller is asking $7,000 for this modified 1985 Chevrolet Monte Carlo, which they say is a very reasonable price considering the $12,000 worth of labor and parts they've put into it. They're only interested in local transactions in the Boise area, so keep that in mind if you're considering making an offer. Overall, if you're a true classic G-body fanatic and you're serious about purchasing a modified Monte Carlo, this could be the ride for you. Just be prepared to put in a little extra work to get it to your desired level of perfection. As always, be sure to do your due diligence before making any big purchases. Get a thorough inspection, check the car's history, and make sure you're comfortable with the modifications that have been made. But if everything checks out, you could be the proud owner of a seriously cool piece of 80s muscle car history. 9. We've got a 1977 Lincoln Mark Viv up for grabs on Craigslist, and let me tell you, this thing is a real beauty. First off, can we talk about the condition of this car? The seller has listed it as good, and based on the description, I'd say that's spot on. This Mark V has been garage kept and is completely rust-free, which is a huge plus for a car that's over 40 years old. Under the hood, you'll find a 400 CDI engine that's paired with an automatic transmission. The seller mentions that the car runs well, which is always a good sign. And get this, everything works. That's right, all the bells and whistles on this classic luxury ride are in proper working order. The odometer shows just 45,583 miles, which is incredibly low for a car of this age. It's clear that this Mark V has been well maintained and cherished throughout its life. The exterior is finished in a sleek gray paint that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. And with a clean title and current non-op status, you'll have no trouble getting this beauty back on the road. Now, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $8,000, or best offer, for this 1977 Lincoln Mark V. While that might seem a bit steep at first glance, it's actually a pretty fair price when you consider the car's condition, low mileage, and desirable features. Of course, as with any classic car purchase, it's always a good idea to do your due diligence. Get a thorough inspection, check the car's history, and make sure everything is on the up and up before you make an offer. But if everything checks out, you could be the proud owner of a true piece of American luxury car history. This 1977 Lincoln Mark V is a real head-turner, and it's sure to make you feel like $1 million every time you get behind the wheel. So, what are you waiting for? If you're in the market for a classic Lincoln that's been well maintained and is ready to hit the road, this could be the one for you. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Give the seller a call and schedule a test drive today. 10. We've got a 1970 Chevy Chevelle up for grabs on Craigslist, and let me tell you, this thing is a real survivor. Now, I'm going to be straight with you. The seller has listed the condition as fair, which means this car isn't perfect. It's got some rust starting in the rear wheel arches, and there's some Bondo on the right rear quarter. But hey, this is a 50-plus-year-old muscle car that's never been restored, so you can't expect it to be completely rust-free. Under the hood, you'll find a 307 V8 engine that's paired with an automatic transmission on the column. This isn't an SS car, but it's still a classic Chevelle with a ton of potential. The odometer shows 129,000 miles, and the seller believes this to be the original mileage based on the condition of the interior and original components like the alternator, air cleaner, and AM radio. It's rare to find a 70 Chevelle with this kind of originality. Now let's talk about the pros and cons. On the plus side, this Chevelle has straight bumpers, good fender gaps, and a straight core support. It's an unmolested, no accident car that's ready for your dream build. On the downside, the car has been sitting since 1992 and needs some work to get it back on the road. The seller can't get any spark. The front seat needs to be reupholstered, and the passenger door and trunk lock are stuck. The seller is asking $11,000 for this 1970 Chevy Chevelle, which is a fair price considering the car's potential. With a little elbow grease and some restoration work, this could easily be a $15,000+ car. Of course, as with any project car, it's always a good idea to do your due diligence. Check the car out in person, verify the mileage and condition, and make sure you're comfortable with the work that needs to be done. But if you're up for a challenge and you've been dreaming of owning a classic Chevelle, this could be the one for you. The seller has keys and a clean and clear title in hand, and they're ready to make a deal. Just keep in mind that the seller is only interested in cash or possibly a vintage Motorcycle trade. They're not looking for any other trades at the moment, so what do you think? Is this 1970 Chevy Chevelle Survivor worth a closer look? If you're in the market for a project car with a ton of potential, it might be worth giving the seller a call and scheduling a time to check it out in person. 11. We've got a real treat for you on Craigslist. A 1972 Pontiac Luxury Le Mans that's sure to get your engine revving. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this beauty. The seller has listed it as good, and based on the description, I'd say that's a fair assessment. This Le Mans has been sitting for just over a year, but with a new battery and some TLC, it should be ready to hit the road in no time. Under the hood, you'll find the original 400 Ci engine that's paired with the original TH400 transmission. That's a powerful combo that's sure to put a smile on your face every time you hit the gas. The odometer shows 121,956 miles, but it is rolled over, so the actual mileage is unknown. However, the seller has all the owner's documentation, service records, and receipts since 1981 in digital format, which is a huge plus. It's always great to have a paper trail when you're buying a classic car. Now, let's talk about some of the extras that come with this Le Mans. The seller has the original 2-barrel carb and intake in a box, as well as the original air cleaner. That's great news for anyone who wants to restore this car to its factory specs. As for the price, the seller is asking $11,500 or best offer. That might seem a bit steep at first glance, but when you consider the overall condition of the car, the original drivetrain, and the included extras, it starts to look like a pretty fair deal. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to do your due diligence. Get a thorough inspection, check the car's history, and make sure everything is on the up and up before you make an offer. But if everything checks out, you could be the proud owner of a classic Pontiac that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. This 1972 luxury Le Mans has a ton of potential, and with a little bit of work, it could be a real showstopper. So, what do you think? Is this Le Mans worth a closer look? If you're in the market for a classic Pontiac with a powerful drivetrain and a lot of extras, it might be worth giving the seller a call and scheduling a test drive. 12. We've got a real project car on Craigslist that's sure to get your gears turning, a 1965 Ford Mustang convertible. Now, I'm gonna be straight with you. This Mustang needs a full restoration, and it's missing a pretty crucial component, the engine. That's right, folks, this pony is currently powerless. But don't let that discourage you. The seller mentions that there's little to no rust on this classic Stang, which is a huge plus. Rust can be a real nightmare when it comes to restoring old cars, so the fact that this Mustang is relatively rust-free is definitely a selling point. The odometer shows 100,000 miles, but without an engine, it's hard to say how accurate that reading is. The car has a clean California title, which is always a good sign. Now, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $9,500 in cold hard cash for this Mustang. They're not interested in any trades, and they're firm on the price. No lowball offers allowed. I know that might seem like a lot of money for a car that needs a full restoration and doesn't even have an engine. But here's the thing, classic Mustangs are highly sought after, and finding one with little to no rust is a rare occurrence. If you're a serious Mustang enthusiast with the skills and resources to take on a full restoration, this could be a great project car. Of course, as with any project car, it's important to do your due diligence. Inspect the car thoroughly, check for any hidden damage or issues, and make sure you have a realistic idea of what it will take to get this Mustang back on the road. But if you're up for the challenge and you've got the cash to spare, this 1965 Ford Mustang convertible could be the start of a really rewarding project. Just imagine cruising down the highway with the top down, the wind in your hair, and the roar of a powerful engine under the hood. It's the stuff car enthusiast dreams are made of. So, what do you think? Is this Mustang project car worth considering? If you're a serious buyer with the skills and resources to take on a full restoration, it might be worth giving the seller a call and scheduling a time to check it out in person. 13. We've got a 1957 Ford Ranchero up for grabs on Craigslist, and let me tell you, this thing is an absolute stunner. First off, can we talk about the condition of this Ranchero? The seller has listed it as excellent, and based on the description, I'd say that's an understatement. This baby has been completely restored from top to bottom, and it shows. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 351W engine that's sure to get your heart racing. And with power disc brakes, power steering, and power seats, this Ranchero is as comfortable as it is powerful. But here's where things get really interesting. This Ranchero is built on a 1991 Lincoln Town Car frame. That means you get all the modern conveniences and reliability of a newer vehicle wrapped up in the classic style of a 1957 Ranchero. It's the best of both worlds. The odometer shows just 800 miles, which I'm assuming is since the restoration. That means you're getting a practically brand new classic car that's ready to hit the road and turn heads wherever you go. And let's talk about that paint job. The blue color is absolutely gorgeous and really makes this Ranchero stand out from the crowd. With a clean title and automatic transmission, this is a car that's ready to be enjoyed by its new owner. Now, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $10,000 for this 1957 Ford Ranchero, and in my opinion, that's an absolute steal. When you consider the quality of the restoration, the modern upgrades, and the overall condition of the car, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. Of course, as with any classic car purchase, it's always a good idea to do your due diligence. Get a thorough inspection, check the car's history, and make sure everything is on the up and up before you make an offer. But if everything checks out, you could be the proud owner of a truly unique and stunning classic car. This 1957 Ford Ranchero is the kind of vehicle that will make you the envy of every car show and cruise night you attend. So, what are you waiting for? If you're in the market for a beautifully restored classic car with modern upgrades and a ton of style, this Ranchero could be the one for you. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Give the seller a call and schedule a test drive today. 14. We've got a real treat for you on Craigslist. A 1984 Chevrolet Corvette that's sure to get your engine revving. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this beauty. The seller has listed it as good, and based on the description, I'd say that's a fair assessment. The body is in great shape, which is always a plus for a classic car like this. You want your Corvette to turn heads for all the right reasons, and this one definitely will. Inside, the interior is fully functioning, and the trim is in fine shape. That means you'll be cruising in comfort and style, just like a Corvette should. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that's paired with an automatic transmission. The seller mentions that the car runs well, which is always music to a car enthusiast's ears. Now, there is one issue to note. The AC requires repair. But hey, that's a small price to pay for a classic Corvette that's otherwise in great condition, right? The odometer shows just 68,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. That means you've got plenty of miles left to enjoy this beauty on the open road. And can we talk about that paint color? The red is absolutely stunning and really makes this Corvette pop. There's just something about a red Corvette that screams classic American sports car. As for the price, the seller is asking $8,700 for this 1984 Chevrolet Corvette. While that might seem like a lot of money for a car that needs AC repair, it's actually a pretty fair price for a Corvette in this condition. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's always a good idea to do your due diligence. Get a thorough inspection, check the car's history, and make sure everything is on the up and up before you make an offer. But if everything checks out, you could be the proud owner of a classic American sports car that's sure to turn heads and put a smile on your face every time you get behind the wheel. So, what do you think? Is this 1984 Chevrolet Corvette worth a closer look? If you're in the market for a classic sports car with a powerful engine and a lot of style, it might be worth giving the seller a call and scheduling a test drive. 15. We've got a 1970 Chrysler Newport up for grabs on Craigslist, and let me tell you, this thing is a real-time capsule. First off, can we talk about the condition of this car? The seller has listed it as excellent, and based on the description and the low mileage, I'd say that's spot on. This Newport has been sitting in a barn just past Hood River since 1993, which means it's been protected from the elements and preserved in all its original glory. Under the hood, you'll find a 383 big block engine with the original 2-barrel carb that's been professionally rebuilt. That means you'll have plenty of power to cruise down the highway in style. The interior is where this car really shines. The seller mentions that it's in awesome condition, which is incredible for a car that's over 50 years old. You'll feel like you've stepped back in time when you slide behind the wheel of this beauty. And can we talk about that mileage? Just 59,900 original miles. That's practically unheard of for a car of this age. It's clear that this Newport has been cherished and well maintained throughout its life. Now, the seller does mention a few dents in the body by the rear passenger tire, but other than that, the car is very straight. And with all the new parts that have been put in, including a new water pump, alternator, power steering pump, distributor, coil, plugs, wires, carburetor, master cylinder, wheel cylinders, brake shoes, and brake spring kits, this car is just begging to be brought back to life. The seller even has original paper receipts and documents, which is a real bonus for any classic car collector. And if you're local, they're willing to help with delivery too. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's the catch? Well, the seller is honest about the fact that they just don't have the time to get this car up and running. As a full-time mechanic, the last thing they want to do when they get home is wrench some more. But that's where you come in. If you're a classic car enthusiast with the skills and the time to get this Newport back on the road, this could be the project of a lifetime. And at just $4,000, it's an absolute steal for a car in this condition with this kind of history. Of course, as with any project car, it's important to do your due diligence. Inspect the car thoroughly, check for any hidden damage or issues, and make sure you have a realistic idea of what it will take to get this beauty back on the road. But if you're up for the challenge and you've got the passion for classic cars, this 1970 Chrysler Newport could be the start of something really special. Just imagine cruising down the highway in this gorgeous green machine, turning heads and making memories along the way. So, what are you waiting for? If you're ready to take on the project of a lifetime and bring this time capsule back to life, give the seller a call and schedule a time to check it out in person. With a little bit of elbow grease and a lot of love, this Newport could be the crown jewel of your classic car collection. 16. We've got a real treat for you. A 1984 Pontiac Firebird that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A car from the 80s? Is it even worth checking out? Well, let me tell you. This Firebird has got some serious potential. First off, let's talk about the price. At $8,800, it might seem a bit steep for a car that's almost 40 years old. But when you consider the overall condition of this beauty, it starts to make sense. The seller mentions that the car is in excellent shape, aside from one major issue, the blown motor. They believe it's the camshaft that's causing the problem, which means the engine will need to be replaced. But don't let that discourage you. The rest of the car is said to be in top-notch condition. It's got a sleek black paint job that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. Plus, the seller has already put in some work, installing new struts, tires, and exhaust. And let's not forget about the 5-speed manual transmission, a true driver's car. Now, I know some of you might be hesitant about taking on a project like this. Replacing an engine is no small feat, and it can be costly. But think about the end result. A classic Pontiac Firebird with a modern engine ready to tear up the streets. It's the kind of project that any true car enthusiast would be proud to take on. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence. Make sure to inspect the car thoroughly and get a professional opinion before making any decisions. But if you're up for the challenge and have the skills, or know someone who does, this 1984 Pontiac Firebird could be the perfect project car for you. So, what do you think? Is this Firebird worth taking a chance on? 17. We've got a real treat for you. A 1970 Mercury Cougar that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at just $8,500. And let me tell you, it's a steal. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's the catch? Well, according to the seller, there isn't one. This Cougar is in good condition, with just a little bubbling here and there. It's got a clean title, and it's been lovingly cared for by its senior owner. Plus, it's a BC car, so you know it's been living the good life up in Canada. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 351 motor with dual exhaust, ready to roar to life. And get this, it only has 35,000 miles on the odometer. That's practically brand new for a classic car like this. But the real cherry on top? This Cougar comes with extra original parts, manuals, and even a full set of 5 original Cougar hubcaps. It's like having a time capsule on wheels. Inside, the interior is nice and well maintained. You'll feel like you're stepping back in time as you slide behind the wheel of this classic coupe. Now, I know some of you might be skeptical about buying a car sight unseen, but the seller seems genuinely sincere in their description. They're not trying to hide anything. They're being upfront about the minor imperfections and pricing it to sell quickly. So if you're in the market for a vintage ride that's sure to turn heads, this 1970 Mercury Cougar might just be the one for you. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a piece of automotive history. 18. We're diving into the details of a stunning 1967 Chrysler Newport Custom that's currently up for grabs at just $8,500. This beauty is a true classic, and it's got plenty of features that are sure to make any car enthusiast drool. First off, let's talk about what's under the hood. This Newport is packing a powerful 383 4-barrel engine, paired with a 727 transmission and an 834 rear end with 2.992 gears. That means this car has plenty of get up and go, perfect for cruising down the highway or showing off at your local car meet. But the fun doesn't stop there. This Newport has all the creature comforts you could want, including a power bench seat with a fold-down armrest. And yes, the power seat actually works. A power trunk, also in working order, and even front and rear speakers that are still pumping out the tunes. And if you really want to impress your passengers, this car even has a reverberator that's in perfect working condition. Talk about retro cool. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but what about the condition? Well, let me tell you, this Newport is in fantastic shape. The headliner is perfect, and all the glass is original. The only minor issue is that the power antenna is the wrong one. But hey, that's an easy fix. But the real beauty of this car lies in all the upgrades and improvements that have been made. The previous owner put in new rod bearings and rings, so the engine is running like a top. There's a new 600 CFM Edelbrock carb, and the intake has been changed to the larger runner 68 Plus intake, though it's still an original 4-barrel car. The brakes have been completely redone, with new brake lines, wheel cylinders, and turned drums all around. And with the electronic ignition conversion and new alternator and voltage regulator, this car is ready to roll. But wait, there's more. The gas tank and sending unit have been replaced, so you won't have to worry about any fuel issues. The trunk floor has been replaced, so your spare tire and tools will have a nice, clean home. And to top it all off, this Newport is riding on a set of 15 chrome smoothie wheels that look absolutely killer. Now, I know some of you might be skeptical about buying a car sight unseen, but the seller seems genuinely sincere in their description, and they've provided plenty of details about the car's condition and upgrades. And with just 92,000 miles on the odometer, and a clean title, this Newport is a solid investment for any classic car lover. So if you're in the market for a vintage ride that's sure to turn heads and get your heart racing, this 1967 Chrysler Newport Custom might just be the one for you. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a piece of automotive history. 19. We've got a real blast from the past, a 1982 Ford Fairmont Futura that's up for grabs for just $4,200. This classic little ride is 42 years old, but don't let its age fool you. It's still got plenty of life left in it. Under the hood, you'll find a strong 3.3L six-cylinder engine paired with an automatic transmission. And get this, the odometer shows under 91,000 miles. That's practically a baby in classic car terms. Now I know what you might be thinking. What about the body and paint? Well, according to the seller, the body is pretty straight and has very little rust. The paint might not be perfect, but it still cleans up nicely. And hey, a little patina never hurt anyone, right? Inside, the interior is in fair shape, and there's even an aftermarket stereo to keep you entertained on those long drives. The windows have some aftermarket tint, which is a nice touch. And get this, the factory clock in the dash still works and keeps time. Talk about a time capsule. Now, I'll be honest with you, this Fairmont could use a little tinkering. The front struts are old and rattle a bit, and the rack and pinion needs a new boot on the left side. But hey, that's part of the charm of owning a classic car. There's always something to tinker with and improve. Overall, this old girl is in decent shape for its age. And the best part? It can be titled and registered as a classic antique, which means you'll be the coolest kid on the block at your local car shows. Now, I know some of you might be hesitant to drop $4,200 on a car sight unseen, but the seller seems genuinely sincere in their description, and they've got the title ready to go. Plus, with 4 tires that still have plenty of tread, you can hop in and drive this beauty home today. So, if you're looking for a classic ride that's sure to turn heads and start conversations, this 1982 Ford Fairmont Futura might just be the one for you. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a piece of automotive history. 20. We're taking a closer look at a stunning 1978 Chevrolet El Camino that's currently up for grabs at just $8,950. This beauty is a true street rod, and it's got the looks and performance to back it up. First off, let's talk about that paint job. This El Camino has some seriously eye-catching custom paint that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. The quality is top-notch, and it's clear that a lot of time and effort went into making this ride look its best. But this El Camino isn't just a pretty face, it's got plenty of power under the hood too. It's packing a built small block with a small cam and high-rise headers that sound absolutely wicked. And with an automatic transmission and power steering, this baby is a breeze to drive. But the fun doesn't stop there. This El Camino has been lowered for a sleek, aggressive stance, and it's riding on a set of nice centerline type wheels wrapped in newer tires. It's the perfect combination of classic style and modern performance. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but what about the condition? Well, let me tell you, this El Camino is in fantastic shape. The odometer shows just 75,059 miles, which is practically nothing for a classic ride like this. And with a clean title, you can be sure that this beauty is ready to hit the road. But the real beauty of this El Camino lies in its overall package. It's not just a collection of cool parts, it's a cohesive, well-executed build that's sure to impress even the most discerning car enthusiast. From the custom paint to the built engine to the lowered stance, every aspect of this ride has been carefully considered and executed to perfection. Now I know that $8,950 might seem like a lot of money for a classic car, but when you consider the quality of the build and the attention to detail that's gone into this El Camino, it's actually a pretty fantastic deal. And with the seller providing plenty of details and photos in the ad, you can be sure that you're getting exactly what you see. So if you're in the market for a classic ride that's sure to turn heads and get your heart racing, this 1978 Chevrolet El Camino Street Rod might just be the one for you. Don't miss out on this opportunity to own a piece of automotive history that's been updated for the modern era.